Morning, everyone. It's Joe Waxman, and I'm back with another video. This morning, I want to talk about Marlon Brando, the renowned, famous actor, most notable for his role in The Godfather. He was the Godfather, and I'm not going to do an impression because I can't do a Marlon Brando impression. I've never tried, but I'm not much of an impressionist. However, Brando was when he was a kid, he was a mimic. He was a natural. He could impersonate anyone. And that's how he knew he wanted to be an actor. All right. Exalted Sun in Aries conjunct Moon. So, I mean, Sun conjunct Aries in the fifth house, conjunct the fifth house cusp. I mean, that's fantastic. You know, really strong. Sun in Aries is very powerful. Very it has all the qualities of Aries, which is the fire starter, and the sun's energy, sun's kingship, sun's star power and shining light gets enhanced by Aries bold, action oriented energy. It gets empowered, it gets emboldened, it gets very strong. The sun just naturally it does great in Aries. It's conjunct the moon. It's not so great for the moon. It tends to be more, the moon there is not going to be it's combust, it's hidden. This is a new moon, right? There's a quiet, I mean, for certain things, it can be good for like secrets and hiding and I don't know, possible other things depending on what sign and house it is in. But it's also ruling the eighth house. So this moon, I would say, is not one of his better signs, and it does bring in some negativity. Certain difficult problems into his life, which we'll get into. I think it is probably responsible for he had a period in his life, I think about a decade, where after he was famous, he produced a bunch of box office flops. And so that would be very much an eighth house thing. An eighth house thing can ruin somebody's reputation, can bring them down, can it's a death and rebirth. So like there might be a portion where he's, or there was a portion where he was down and out, and that's very much an eighth house signification. And that I think is probably the moon conjunct the sun in Aries. So, but otherwise, the sun is fantastic in Aries. The sun is ruling the ninth house. So bringing in a lot of philosophy, high-mindedness, philosophy, religion. I don't think he was particularly religious, but he was he was an activist. He was a major activist, and that ties in with ninth house, sort of not activism per se, but having very strong convictions, beliefs, and being a part of that. Also sixth house, probably the Venus in domicile in Taurus. He's got so many strong planets. I mean, let's look at the ascendant. Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Sagittarius, and look at this, Jupiter stationary. I mean, this is extremely powerful. This Jupiter, it's okay. So Jupiter is in its own sign of Sagittarius. It's in the first house, so it gains double dignity there. And now it's stationary. This Jupiter is like fantastic. It's such a strong Jupiter in the first house. This is making him so powerful, so strong. Then he's got this exalted sun. It's disposited and making contact, even though it's a square, by an exalted Mars in the second house. All right. The sun, if a planet is making aspect to its dispositor, that's good, right? then the sun can relate to its how it's expressing itself, where the energy is going. The energy is moving towards this Mars because that's the dispositor. And Mars is exalted in Capricorn, right? Now, Mars is also trine to the MC. It's not its rulership, but that's still quite good. What else? The Venus in the 6th house. In the 6th house, Venus is in domicile in Taurus, so that's again good. The 6th house is about service, so that also, number one, it's great for creativity. It's great for the arts because the 6th house is the place where the daily mind is going. The daily mundane activity, the daily energy, the winning against enemies, but also service to others, and also the ability to have the critical, analytical, editorial kind of mind. So like, ability to edit his own creativity, right? For every artist, every artist, it's good if they have an ability to have some critical, analytical skills towards their own creativity. Then they can, for somebody like him, he can act and be his own critic, and he can produce, and yeah. And that was, he was renowned as an actor. He was one of the, best actors of the last century, of any century that we know of. He was really powerful actor. Mercury, which is the MC Lord, is in the 5th house. Okay, 5th house is fantastic for acting, any sort of performance, game, fun and games. It's a house of fun. It's a house of play. It's a house of education, creativity, children. By the way, he had 11 children. He was very prolific. Right? 11 children, many, many lovers, including Marilyn Monroe. He married many times. Pluto in the 8th, right? His sexuality was very highly charged, very passionate, deep desires. And then Pluto is square the sun again. That is going to, from the 8th house, that is a destructive quality, a destructive square. That's not an easy square, and it's part of this T-square, wider with Mars, but still the sun and the moon are right in between this. And probably the Mars is an easier one because it is the dispositor of the sun and moon, Mars ruling Aries, and then it's exalted. But this square to Pluto is quite destructive. And he was notoriously difficult to work with. He was full of demands, and he was aggressive, and he could fight. He was a fighter. Let's not forget Jupiter and Sagittarius. Especially Sagittarius. Jupiter is not known for fighting, but Sagittarius is kind of a warrior sign, or at least it has the potential to be, right? The centaur, the image of the half horse, half human, which in real life would translate as a guy on horseback, with a bow and arrow, which is a warrior. Sagittarius is a warrior sign. That's one of the significations. I mean, of course, Aries and Scorpio, even Leo. I mean, many different warriors, even Gemini. But anyway, so he was a fighter, and he was very difficult to work with on set, right? He had a very difficult childhood, and that's Uranus conjunct the IC. His mother was an alcoholic. Uranus can represent trauma, right? His mother was an alcoholic, and his father was very, mean. So he had trouble in his youth. His mother would, just go get drunk instead of taking care of him, and the father was kind of like mean and abusive verbally. I don't know physically, but so that's this Uranus conjunct the IC. That's very difficult. Uranus can be wonderful, but it can also be really, really, really difficult. It can indicate trauma, very much so. Right. Yeah, and we have a south node in the third house, third quadrant. So that's great for expression. Mars in the second house, also, for speaking ability. So many good planets, right? Yeah. Neptune in Leo, it's in the ninth house. But Leo is very much, signifies fame and recognition, being in the spotlight, and it's part of this grand fire trine, which is excellent for any sort of, leadership or being seen, being on stage, just having that dynamic quality that just, it's fire, it's light, it lights up the room, lights up the stage. Grand fire trine is really, really good, especially with these planets: Jupiter, Neptune, Sun, Moon, Mercury. And by the way, I mean, Chiron too. So Chiron with the Sun and the Moon, that's going to make him, also Mercury in Aries, that's going to make him hypersensitive, because Chiron is that wound, right? And if Chiron is making, a hard aspect to any personal planets, that's definitely going to be an issue, because it's creating this like imagine having an open wound, like just a big open sore on your body, and then somebody's just like, anytime anyone comes close to you, just like, pats you on the back or rubs your shoulders, it's gonna hurt, right? So it creates a lot of sensitivity. And then in Aries, he's gonna fight, like, and so he was notoriously difficult because of that. This Aries energy, this aggressive energy, and this kind of hypersensitivity. Okay. And being a successful actor, it's not going to give him much spiritual foundation to really work on things. It's not like somebody who's just like, in a spiritual community, who's told, oh, you have to heal, you have to meditate, you have to heal your trauma, you have to heal your wounds and all this and that. You're a big, famous, successful person, you're not going to have that impetus to work on yourself. So he carried his wounds. I'm pretty sure he carried his wounds through his life, because he just had too much going for him to really spend the time. It's not easy to heal yourself, and anyone who's healed themselves will know that takes a lot of work. So he was very difficult, to work with. And yeah. Let's see what else. Saturn just missed out on Libra. It's a 0 degree Scorpio. Saturn in Scorpio is not great either. I mean, it's difficult, it's ruling the second and third house in the 11th. That's bringing a lot of popularity and to his 11th house. I mean, because second house and third house deal with speaking and expression. So, and then the 11th house is dealing with groups, career success, networks. So he's bringing his, speaking, expressive ability, his acting ability into the groups network. So it's a good position. I mean, Saturn in Scorpio is not great. It's not the worst position, but it is retrograde also. But it is the second and third lord in the 11th house is good, and it's good for money too, because second house is wealth, and so is 11th house. And when these two are, when the energy of these two are, trading. Also, Mars and Saturn are in each other's houses, and that's actually that's good, because it's second and 11th. So that's also really good for wealth, right? Yeah, what else? Okay, Lilith. I put this in here because he was a male sex symbol. He was like one of the premier male sex symbols, and I wanted to see how significant Lilith would be for a male who's a male sex symbol. It's pretty damn significant. I mean, it's conjunct the descendant basically by both the mean and the true Lilith. by 1 and 2 degrees, respectively. It's on the descendant, which is the 7th house, but it's still reflecting on the 1st house. So, I mean, not only is he a sex symbol, but he's going to attract other sort of sex symbols. And he dated a lot of, like, beautiful women, and married a lot of them too, including not marriage, but had an affair with Marilyn Monroe, right? And his Venus is in Taurus, right? So that's a beautiful combination for beauty. It's in the 6th house, but it's pretty close to Lilith. I mean, it's out of sign, but it's still conjuncting the Lilith, right? What else? 7th Lord in the 5th house. That's romance. That's a lot of romance. When partners going to the 5th house, you can expect a lot of romance. MC in the 5th house. That's great for any sort of creativity, acting, whatnot. Let's see. The nodes are square the descendant, actually the ascendant, descendant, and Lilith. So there's something very significant here between himself, his relationships, sex symbol, the Lilith, and the nodes. South node conjunct Pallas Athena. You know what? He was known for being like a real actor. He brought like because I don't know acting, but like he brought in like different acting technique, and I wonder if that has to do with South node conjunct Pallas Athena, which has to do with strategy and pattern recognition, wisdom. It's in Pisces. Pisces is very creative. 3rd house has to do with skills, speaking, writing, things like that. So I wonder about that. That might be significant. And then North nodes in Virgo in the 9th house. He was very much an activist, right? And I think that has to do with his Jupiterian ascendant, not only Sag, but ascendant Lord in domicile in the 1st house, stationary, which is also responsible for him getting fat as he got older. He weighed over 300 pounds in his later years and had diabetes, and he died from ill health. So, the philosophy, the good nature towards others, that's there because Jupiter essentially is very good natured, Jupiter Sag. And then this 9th house influence is furthering that. The belief system, his values, what he believed in. Leo, which is more egotistical, but very generous too. Leos can be very, very generous, very big-hearted, very caring. And then Virgo is about service to others. Virgo is very much an activist. I mean, when Virgo was activated in the 60s with Pluto and Uranus, we saw activism, right? We saw a huge amount of activism, and also Libra as well. Not that he has any Libra planets, but the 6th house, So I think he was active in civil rights and Native American, civil rights movement. So I believe that's how he was using his belief system, his higher mind, his Jupiterian influence. Also the Chiron. Chiron definitely concerns itself with the wounded, with the down and out. So you know what? I take it back. I mean, yeah, he probably did carry his wounds throughout his life, but there was also a part of him that was, expressing the higher expression of Chiron, which is the healer, right? Wanting to heal the underdog, the minority, the wounded, rejected of society. The underdog, the black community and the Native American community as well, both of them. Yep. What else? I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up. Let's see. Mars ruling the 12th and the 5th. That's fantastic for creativity. Yeah. I think this is, the Jupiter here is what made him the mimic, because it's ruling the 4th lord as well. So 4th is going into the 1st. So like as a child, and the creativity, I think Pisces, because Pisces can absorb other people's energy and reflect it, right? And is bringing it into his 1st, his head, his appearance, right? I think that's it. Is Jupiter ruling Pisces. Pisces, I don't know if you noticed this, but Pisces will do that. If you throw a lot of energy, like whatever it is, like Pisces can absorb it and throw it and just like, reflect it right back at you, because it's that absorbent water quality, right? So I believe that is why he was such a good mimic. He could really impersonate people even as a child. So that's that. What else? Yeah. So like, if you look at all his planets, like this Jupiter is the strongest. So his 1st house is the strongest house by far. And then 2nd house, an exalted Mars, exalted Sun in the 5th house, Venus in domicile right at the edge of the 6th house. It's incredible. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 planets with great dignity. Moon is not so hot. And then his mother was an alcoholic, right? Ruling the 8th house, being combust the sun. And then his father, although exalted, does have 2 difficult squares on it. The Mars is not so bad, again, because it's the dispositor, so it's making contact. But this Pluto from the 8th house in Cancer, that's quite difficult. That's abuse. That's abuse, and from the father, and his father was abusive towards him. But anyway, overall, I mean, fantastically strong chart, phenomenal. And this Jupiter is like everything. Right? It doesn't get much stronger than this Jupiter. I mean, maybe if it was exactly conjunct the ascendant, like or like an exalted sun right on the ascendant, like in Bach's chart. But anyway, incredibly strong chart. Marlon Brando, film legend. So there you have it. It's always uncanny. The chart never lies. It always shows what's really going on with the person and their talents, their skills, their weaknesses, their shortcomings, all that, their karmas. So if you enjoy this content, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to book a reading, go to my website, macroastrology.com. And I will see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.